On that note of love, guys, I love Revive Church. I love being here. I love hanging out with you guys. I know my full-time gig's supposed to be out in Muskego, but like this is family. I love what's happening here. I'm proud of you. I love the vision. The vision that starts with Ed. We're good. Maybe I'll back up a little. All right, we'll see how this works. It takes a lot of vision to go from nothing to something, and to also have enough vision to say this is just something. This isn't the end destination yet. Like you just mentioned, we're at 6 months. Is that right, Ed? 6, 7, 8. Like it takes 9 months to make a baby. You guys aren't even a baby yet, right? So like, scale this thing out over time and start picturing where God's going with it. But Milwaukee, we need some multi-ethnic answers. Yes. With a multi-ethnic gospel housed in a multi-ethnic church. That's needed. That's part of the mission of this church. There needs to be some special needs answers with a special needs gospel and a special needs home for families in our area. And this church is worth happening and the vision here. And Ed's always so gracious to me. Like he acts like I'm some kind of big servant, big helper heart. And really, that's not the case at all. I'm just having fun with you guys, and to whatever extent I can be a part of your church and family. And what's been nice is it's been feeding kind of my vision and taking me on a little trip down memory lane of why did I and my family plant a church 12 years ago in my hometown, out in Muskego. And at the end of the day, it wasn't why Muskego or why another church or why me. I got a little story that kind of puts together for me, like why was the why there? And it was a turning point that happened for me, in my perspective, in college. I had faith in Jesus when I went off to college. Like not the whole time. I was raised in church. Middle school, it was definitely my parents' faith, not my own. High school, I made the choice to make it my own. Elementary years, I don't remember. But I had a faith in Jesus, and I was going off to college. I couldn't wait to just keep growing it in whatever way it was going to be without the incubation of mom and dad. And one of the first things that happened, week 1, freshman dorm, on my wing, someone invited me to a Bible study in their room. At Lake Point Church, we call them missional communities. As Ed just called it, it's small groups. But so you get the picture of what's going on. And it was so strange when I got there. Because there was no pastor in the room. No trained professional. And no grown-up, right? Like I still felt like a kid. I was 18, but I still felt like a kid. Like who's the person who's more mature? Who's ahead of us? Who's trained and qualified to be doing spiritual things here? There's no one but each other. A bunch of freshmen turning alongside of each other. And these guys just opened up the Bible, read a little bit of it, and asked some questions about, like, what do you think it meant back then? What do you think it means to us now? What are we going to do about it? And not only was I shocked that you could do this without someone with real training in the room, I was also shocked at just how much that helped me grow. Like, without the pro in the room, like, you had to have your own answers. You had to have your own thought process. And then I walked out of this thing. There's like a whole wing in my dorm full of other students that could be a part of this. And so I went around and I was telling everyone, like, hey, you can join me too. You should join me too. No, I really, really want you to join me too. And some did and some didn't. And as God would have it, over the 4 years in college, like 12 of us stuck together. I don't know, like you're all scared and missing mom. And so like the friendships you make that first week really kind of stick with you. And 12 of these fellas decided we were going to be like friends for the next 4 years of college together. And that first year, only 5 of them joined that small group Bible study. And then by year 2, 8 were in that small group Bible study. By the end of year 3, we had 11 of the 12 of us in that small group Bible study. And by that time, everyone's got that kind of mission that I had in my heart of this is good, we're growing, Jesus is worth talking about. And so we decided to go after that one in our group of a dozen who wasn't there yet. We found his campus schedule for his senior year, where he was going to be, when he was going to be home, and we made sure the Bible study moved to his home on the nights he was going to be there. And so then we got 12 out of 12 by year 4. And this light bulb started going on for me, because this was a hilariously improper church program. Like, fellas were cursing their way through the Bible study, farting their way through it. The food we made for each other was absolutely terrible, on the edge of inedible. And you'd have to pause in the middle for these like wrestling matches that would break out in the middle of it. Not everyone was Christian going in. Most of them weren't. Not everyone wanted to be a Christian when it was done. But they were curious, and I started seeing like what God could do in everyday life and in everyday relationships with people that weren't going to go to church to get the same thing. How many of those 12 boys do you think were waking up on a Sunday morning after a Saturday night party to go to church? There was 2. Like I was one of them, and there was a second one. The other 10, no shot whatsoever. Like if the things of God were going to, if church was going to be church to them, it had to go to their everyday life, and it had to go to their everyday relationships. Some chose Jesus. Some grew as disciples. One of the boys was suicidal and decided to choose life. Another one would wake up with anxiety attacks in the middle of life and in the middle of the night and learn to lean into God with prayer. Some 20 years later, I know some of them are raising their kids in the church right now. One of them is like an elder level kind of leader in their church. And some of them still haven't been to a church building. But I'd like to think they got some foundation where if at some point the things in life overwhelm their capacity, they got some taste of Jesus and can lean back in. And that was the light bulb for me, is that church services matter and worship songs matter and what we do here on a Saturday night matters, but everyday life matters as well. Especially to the people that aren't going to show up at a service to catch it another way. Matthew 5, 14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill can't be hidden. When it is located on a hill, no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, everyone who lights a lamp puts it on a lampstand. Then its light shines on everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine in front of people. Then they will see the good that you do and praise your Father in heaven. Something so natural, something so immediate, unforced, radiant, that it can happen in a dorm wing with a bunch of cursing, gas-passing freshman boys. Light never has to work on being light. It just is what it is. And when you shine that in the place where God has placed you, you start seeing the things of God show up in their lives. And that became my why. Like, why another church? It wasn't to have another church service. It was with this hope that if we started one more church, maybe we can make it all about those everyday circles and everyday life and everyday relationships. And take it to people out there. Over the 12 years since we started our plan, like 12 years isn't grown up either yet, fellas. Like, right? Like we got a ways to go. A lot has changed, and some things just never change. I'm going to use a couple pictures to illustrate for you. Like 12 years ago, this is a picture of my son at our first. You can put it on the screen, Eddie, up here for us to see. That was my son, 2 years old at the time. He saw Dad holding a microphone, trying to boss this launch team around of like, here's what our church is going to be and what it's going to look like. And my 2-year-old boy, fresh out of nursery, decided he was going to try leading, and now he's about to turn 14 this month, and he's leading our nursery. A lot has changed, but some things never change. Here's my family picture way back then. There he is with the diaper, and we got these little guys that are just like, just tiny little batch. I even looked tiny back then. I've gotten a little bigger. And here's a family picture of what we look like now. One's taller than me, and one's stronger than me, and one's definitely nicer than me, right? Here's another picture back then, and like this Stone Cold Killer right here in the middle. Like, I don't know if he's trying to kill his lasagna or the cameraman. Now he is our cameraman on a Sunday morning at Lake Point Church. He's the one putting our live stream on, and the one on the right that looks like a goofball, he's leading our 5th and 6th graders. Like some things change, and some things never change. We're still the church, and back then, I never look back and say I planted a church. My family did. All of them were the church back then. Here's a couple other pictures of them right now, just because I thought it was fun. That's neither here nor there. Here's the picture of what discipling kids look like back then. Can you believe it? Like, that's a hallway, folks. And everything that we did for kids is on wheels. Everything in the picture has wheels on it. And some things change, some things never change. Let's go to the next one. Kids still get our best. It looks far more organized right now, and we got a system and structure to it. But kids always got our best. Back when it was a hallway, and now when it's their own room. Worship services back then looked like this. A high school gymnasium, and I guarantee you, all those folding chairs we set out there, that was with optimism. I'm not saying we filled it, but we tried, right, with prayer. And nowadays, here's another picture. I think we skipped one, or I lost it. I had a picture of like there was better. Forget it at this point. Now we have lighting. Now we have pads on our chairs. And at the same point, was Jesus any less praised in a gymnasium than he is in a small auditorium? My sermons have gotten better since then, and so I think he's praised Jesus for that, but it's still the same. Muskego Feeds back then also was in a gymnasium, and we only made 10,000 meals. This next week, Saturday, we're going to make 100,000 meals, and 100,000 the year after that. Some things change, and some things just never change. And here's let's go to this next one. We must be really out of order. There's some picture with a whiteboard, if you can find it, Eddie, of me. I was drawing up the vision for what there we go. Okay, so the church has not even started yet. These two pictures here is little Brian Hofmeister trying to explain his picture based out of his college dorm room experience of what this church is going to be. I'm going to try to redraw it for you a little bit here. I don't know if I'm actually going to be successful at it or not, but here's what I kept trying to tell people of what a church could be. Right? So right in the middle there is supposed to be a church. I have like a steeple on it. Nowadays, Lake Point Church has kind of this architecture entrance that looks like this. There's a cross in it, but it's kind of subtle and so on and so forth. And in the middle of it, you got your doorways to get in the building of the church. And I explained to them, like, here's like the circle of relationships of this thing called church. And then out here, in everyday life, here's an everyday circle that's like your neighborhoods, right? And here's another everyday circle with your networks. And here's another everyday circle of your apartments and where you live. Here's another everyday circle of arts and culture. Here's another everyday circle of sports, whether it's your sports or your kids' sports, and on and on it can go, right? Recreation. Let's not forget the workplace, right? That's one of the biggest ones. A lot of us spend more time there than we do with our family, and you have all these everyday circles, none of which are in church, and very few people, even with an invitation, will want to go to that church. And so what I was explaining to them is, guys, like, what if we did it like this, where we are all these people inside the church building. All these other circles have people there. Let's do something in between. This was our idea of what a small group would be, or a missional community would be, is that you would have a pocket of people, some from your neighborhood and some from your church family, and together you'd open the Bible together, have spiritual conversations, grow each other's lives, like half and half, like it was for me back in my college experience. Same thing, like your kids are in sports, great. Instead of just sitting there and cheering for junior the whole time, Well, why don't you say hi to a few people? It turns into, oh, that sounds serious. Well, can I pray for you? And then prayer turns into, well, can I share some scriptures with you? And next thing you know, half your friends from church and half your friends from your daughter's volleyball team are now hanging out together in these small group things that Ed's talking about. That was my picture of what a church could be. And let me tell you, I tried how-toing this. I tried inspiring this. I tried challenging this. I even tried branding it. Like if you've ever seen the logo of our church, it's here, right? Our church logo is this. This is even harder to see. All right, it's like it's one circle with a small circle on the side. It's not because we're making the letter O in Lake Point. It's because here's an everyday circle with a small faith circle grouped, attached to it. And for the life of me, like after trying to lead it, inspire, challenge it, and I started to get away from the vision of it. You'll hear me at Lake Point talk about everyday life and the importance of it, and I'll make applications of it. I'll even maybe make some special events for it. But I got away from it because it was just like too unclear. People want to know, well, how do I sign up for an everyday circle? Like there is no sign up. You just be there. They wanted to know, well, I don't have more time for service projects. Like at no point did I ever say service project. This is relationships. Some had the excuse of, I don't have any Christian friends. Like there's 8 billion people on planet Earth. They're not that hard to find. And if you don't know what to say, usually hello is a good starting point. I'm not asking you to just, if you show up and the Holy Spirit shows up, what might happen here? Right. My picture of what a church could be is that you could take over the whole city of Milwaukee, 12 people at a time. That you and 12 of your friends and however you connect and however you group and whatever the Holy Spirit wants to stir, if the Holy Spirit doesn't waken up someone's life to have any interest, I don't know what you can do. But when he does, to be there and say, I know how to open the Bible for myself and for others. And with the hospitality and love in my heart, there's room here. And Revive, your church is an everyday life kind of mission too. The idea of being a multi-ethnic church with multi-ethnic answers for a multi-ethnic city like Milwaukee, that doesn't get decided in here, right? It's not about a blackish-white version of worship. It's about how's that going to happen in neighborhoods. And when it comes to special needs families, it's not just can we accommodate your child on a kid's wing when they come here on a Saturday night. It's what does recreation look like for your family? How do you focus on the workplace when the kids need you to pick them up that many different times? What is sport like? This is where the special needs to show up, right? We were talking about works matter. Works matter in everyday life. This is where we got to go, and this is where we got to be. It wasn't just this college dorm for Melissa and I. After graduating from college, we got our first job in the workplace, and we experienced an everyday circle coming together right there. She got a job in HR for a billing office of Chevron Texaco. She got me a job there because she was in HR. I was a grad student at the time trying to become a pastor, and apparently she wanted me to make some money, so she gave me a job. It was interesting in the course of her interview. The woman who was interviewing her asked, what brought you to town, and talked about the Bible college seminary thing, and the interviewee says, you got to be crapping me. Except she didn't say crap. And because someone had just left the company who was this woman's light for Jesus. He was a Christian. He was shining his light, and she was starting to grow with Jesus, didn't know what she believed. And as that guy went out, my wife comes in, and it's like God's chasing her down with light. Amen. Light's going to shine. And so the two of them became friends, and just spiritual conversations and prayers as you go, little lunch breaks, dinners here or there, smoke breaks. My wife did not smoke, but she inhaled enough secondhand smoke hanging out with her friend. And eventually, she's like, you know what? My husband's into stuff like this. Can he join too? And she's like, well, I got 2 other friends here in the office that are into stuff like this. Can they join too? So her circle grew from the 2 of them to the 5 of us. And then by that time, it's not super organic. You got to set a day and a time. It's not in a dorm room anymore. You go where organic life is happening. So in the workplace, it's lunchtime, right? You got a full hour. You get out. You want to talk about anything besides work. So Tuesdays at Monterey's Mexican food, that's where it was happening. And then people started hearing about this. Not these people, all right? These people. Atheist, agnostic kind of people. One hated church because she was so damaged by it and the way she got pushed around there. 2 of them hated their marriage. Some of them hated God for the way life hurt. 2 of them were in gay relationships. And we didn't even have to do that fun dance of are we open and affirming, or these weird cliches about hate the sin, love the sinner. Because we didn't have, no one wanted to know our formal stance on anything. Because we weren't a formal anything. We were just people getting together. Here's a page in the Bible where Jesus says this. What do you think about that? And so anyone could entertain their thought. Ours was more grounded in the Scriptures. Other people were less grounded in the Scriptures. But in the course of it, everyone got an exposure to who Jesus was and what they might be in their life. And the beautiful thing about it is, some chose Jesus, some didn't. But at the end of the day, I could guarantee you, everyone had a chance to make a choice. The 2 who hated their marriages, one ended it, the other one chose to keep it going. The 2 that were in a gay relationship, one of them stayed in it, the other one chose to get out. Some chose faith in baptism. Others chose to still hate the church. But at least I could feel like the light was shining here. And love too. John 13:34. I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other in the same way that I have loved you. Everyone will know that you are my disciples because of your great kids programming. Because of how amazing your worship music is. Because of how intellectually challenging your sermons are. Or because someone greeted you at the door. Now it says if you love people. Light shines. And then love is there too. The love of one person to another is the best sermon that someone's ever going to hear. It's the best song that's ever going to get sung over them. This is the best version of church and the best version of Jesus that some people are ever going to get the chance to see. When you do that combination of shining your light as you live it and turning it into real love for someone who's in front of you, regardless of where they're headed. Let's continue on to other kind of circles that came in the course of life. And we had stages of life kind of circles that formed. We were newlyweds at one point, and we had a newlywed circle. We had the longest standing marriage in this circle at 8 months. Everyone was looking to us are we going to make it? And I'm like, I don't know. We're not sure. We're going to make it, but community came together. We had another circle that were for people have been married more in that 5 to 7 year window. And by 5 to 7 years, some marriages haven't made it. So some were there were some single parents in there, some marrieds. This is the stage where you don't really have a marriage, you just have shared parental responsibility of preschoolers anyway. And if you have anyone here parents of preschoolers right now? All right. Well, God bless you, because it gets better someday. That is the hardest, most energy draining spot. And it was beautiful to see just how 4 or 5 couples together from the church got together with 3 or 4 couples that we just found them on the playgrounds. Everyone was exhausted and deprived of adult conversation. And we're like, hey, we get together every Thursday night. We cook pasta every time because it's easy. And we open a little part in the Bible, usually about parenting. If you want to join us, that's another spot you could hang out. And people said yes. People said yes. John 17:20. I'm not praying for only them. In other words, I'm not praying for the disciples that are in front of me. Jesus says, I'm also praying for those who will believe in me through their message. Not the current community, the someday community. And I pray that all these people continue to have unity in the way that you, Father, are in me and I am in you. And I pray that they may be united with us so that the world will believe that you have sent me. In the same way, the world knows that you have sent me, that you have loved them in the same way that you have loved me. Now, I know we usually come at this text in a sense of this is doctrinal unity, you ought to find some way of getting along with other Christians who believe a little bit differently than you. But what if it's that these are for those who will believe, that people who don't even have a doctrine yet is what his prayer is for. Maybe Jesus is talking about the newlywed community. They can be a far bigger community when the scriptures and Jesus conversations and spiritual communities formed around it. Maybe God's talking about the preschool years community where everyone's just deprived of energy and love and marital intimacy and all of this stuff. What if they come together with Jesus at the center of it? How much more meaningful would that community become? Your kids' school and your sports years and their activities, again, instead of just sitting on the sidelines and cheering for them on their band ensemble, to meet the parent next to you and you're like, we all love band kids together. How big does it get? Bigger does it get with Jesus in the middle? Your professional years, right? So many of us identify by our workplace. We spend so many hours there. And you have to have relationships. You have to have community in the workplace. How much more significant would it be? It's a spiritual community with Jesus at the center of that circle. Your wisdom and mentor years where you're passing on to others. Retirement years. I'm inspired, envious, and most anticipatory about being retired someday. Because I just love the picture I see of every morning we start with toast and coffee on someone's patio. And then we're doing, golf, pickleball, or a walk around the mall in the middle of the day, and whatever beverage in the middle of the afternoon. Friday, fish fries. There's just so many ways community comes together. And you're living it well. Not just in that way, retired folks with retired folks, but like grandkids and daughters-in-laws and son-in-laws. What I love about old people, let's go with that, is that you're not, when I talk to my sons, how many times am I looking over their shoulder at the next thing we got to get on to doing, or what they should be doing differently? I'm on this mode of going, but when I see my father talk to my son, there's nothing else in the world. It's just, you get 100% of my attention. I have nothing else this hour but you in front of me. Anyone who's born into your family and married into your family, that you in those grandparent and retired years are just I'm going to make a spiritual community out of this. You're going to feel Jesus through me. Why? Because light always shines. And it's by our love that God knows us. Light, love, and community. If you're writing anything down today, write those three down. Light, love, and community. Because that's all there is to this. And I got, how many more minutes do you want me to take? I can cap it here, or I can give you one more story. One more story. All right. I'll give you a picture of what it looks like in Muskego. I told you things. Some things remain the same, and some things change. Here's a picture of. This is where it started. That guy right there in the middle is one of the best friends I have, and we've grown deepest in Jesus. And it started with him wearing a Muskego football dad shirt, coaching my son in football. It didn't happen at church. It didn't even happen in Michigan community. It was out here playing sports, and I met him. And go ahead to the next picture. This is this is my son on the left, his son on the right. They're both 12th graders now, about to graduate next month. But that's where our relationship went. And next from there, now this is the missional community, the small group that meets in our house. All these people that hang out on a regular basis. Every 3 weeks we get together and open up the Bible, talk about life, Jesus, so on and so forth. Go ahead, another picture. Our sons are doing the student ministry together. So you can't tell, but they're a lot bigger in there. I promise they're somewhere in that list. Go to the next one again. Now we've even done family vacations together. 12 years running of being spiritual community, everyday life matters kind of community with Jesus at the center of it. It happens in sports, it happens in vacations, it happens in living rooms, it happens at student ministries, it happens in children's wings, and on football teams, and in the school. Like, it's just absolutely everywhere. How much bigger is that than saying hi to someone every Saturday night when you sit down next to them? Here's another picture. This guy in the back center there, his name is Ted. And again, my 12th grader is first grade in this picture. He has an orange neckerchief on, like they all do. And you want to go on to the next picture. There's our boys again. 3 of those kids are in our church. A couple of them have visited the church. Not everyone has stuck with it. Again, they're all 12th graders now. Next picture. This is me doing Ted's baptism after he's been in our missional community. There's a couple pictures of Ted, so you can kind of scroll through it. But the first time Ted came to a church service, he looked so frightened about what was going on. His face was so stoic, like he had seen a ghost, that he didn't come back for another year. This didn't work for Ted. What did work for Ted, after being my son's Cub Scout leader, and now moving to my living room to open the Bible, that worked for him. And after that worked for him long enough, then the church worked for him. Then baptism worked for him. I don't know if I got any other pictures of Ted, but if I do, go for it. Okay, so here's our 2 seniors. I don't know what's going on in this picture. But now our 2 boys are going to room together in college next year. And maybe this all circulates back again. Maybe they're the ones in the freshman wing who say, I know how to open up the Bible for myself and for others. And instead of, hey, you dozen kids on my freshman dorm wing, come to church with me on Sunday, maybe it's come to my room on Tuesday night. And that's where this is going to start. You just got to appreciate, Bob and I were even talking ahead of time. Stats nowadays are only 30% of people have any sort of disposition towards coming to church. What's the answer for the other 70%? That's you. That's Jesus in you. That's community, it's love, and it's light. And that's where works matter in everyday life. Let me pray for you. Jesus, I pray that you would fulfill Revive Church right here. I pray that people would receive this prayer of commissioning, that they are more than qualified to be you, Jesus, in everyday life and everyday relationships, that you have placed them exactly where you have on purpose, that there's 5, 6, 12 people in their everyday life right now, and it's not an accident. Out of all the people that could be in that person's life, you've placed one of these great disciples of Jesus from Revive Church. They're on purpose. Not asking you for them to be anything different than they already are. I just pray that the light that these people are would get to the spots in their circle that need it. And I pray that the community that's already going on would have that spiritual component of you, Jesus, and your love. And whatever it needs to help those friends come alive, I would pray that it would do just so. We know how to respond. We are ready with the love you first gave us to love our neighbors as ourselves. So put us in that place with the neighbors that need love most. For your glory in everyday life and everyday relationships, we pray. Amen.